Okay, let's dive into this. Today we're exploring a deeply provocative and honestly kind of shocking essay titled, What Do Pigs Live For? And What About Humans? Now, this fascinating piece of social critique comes to us directly from Guide Xu the founder of the Life Sen Center. In this explainer, we're going to unpack his entire essay, which leans on a wildly extended agricultural metaphor to analyze human society. It is an unflinching look at how the masses are managed by those in power. So let's see exactly how he sets this whole thought experiment up.
The essay opens with a completely jarring question. What exactly do domesticated pigs live for? As we go through this explainer, I really love this kind of opening because it just forces you right out of your normal perspective. Xu starts by asking us to genuinely, seriously consider the daily existence of livestock. And he does this to set up a philosophical foundation that, as you'll see, he's going to apply to all of us.
Think about the reality of a domesticated pig's fate. It's pretty stark. They get fed, they're housed, and they basically live a life where they never actually have to labor for their own survival. From the outside looking in, it looks like a blissful, completely stress-free existence. But Xu neutrally observes the dark irony here. These animals are completely unaware that their ultimate purpose, literally the only reason they're given all this comfort, is to be slaughtered and provide meat to their breeders.
And this brilliantly illustrates the essay's first major philosophical hurdle. On one hand, we've got the ignorant pig. It's comfortable, blissful, and content in the pen simply because it has no clue what's coming. But on the other hand, imagine the thinking pig. Zifeng argues that if a pig suddenly gained consciousness and understood its destiny, well, it would be an absolute curse. It would either be plagued by paralyzing depression, or it would be forced to make a super dangerous escape into the wild, where it has to face predators and join a wild herd just to survive. So inside the pen, ignorance isn't just bliss, it's a requirement for peace.
Now, watch how this builds. Xu executes this really sharp narrative pivot, asking the exact same question, but now he's pointing it directly at us. What about humans, right? If the pig is oblivious to its purpose, well, what are we living for? What is our ultimate fate? He shifts the focus entirely from livestock management to human existence, basically using the pig pen as a mirror for human society.
To make this philosophical leap, he brings in a quote from the ancient sage Confucius. It reads, "The people may be made to follow a path of action, but they may not be made to understand it." Xu uses this ancient wisdom as a bridge. He's suggesting that the way agricultural breeders view livestock actually isn't all that different from how rulers and governors view the human masses. So let's break down exactly how Xu interprets this quote. He offers two deeply cynical takes here. Interpretation one is that rulers simply demand obedience and actively prevent independent thought. Then there's interpretation two, which is slightly different. It suggests rulers will give freedom to those who are perfectly obedient, but will strictly educate or discipline anyone who's disobedient or hard to handle. Either way you slice it, the primary goal of the system is absolute compliance.
So the crucial point is that independent thought is inherently dangerous to those in power. Think about it. If the masses start thinking for themselves, just like that pig waking up to its fate, they're going to start making demands. They will demand true freedom. And according to the essay, once people demand freedom, they become exceedingly difficult to manage, to rule, and ultimately to exploit.
Xie actually makes a self-referential claim here, noting that ordinary people must not be allowed to innovate in theory and practice. He points straight to his own ideas, specifically his utopian concept of a communism's second homeland, as the exact type of unauthorized independent thought that rulers absolutely fear. From the perspective of the powerful, an ordinary person proposing new ways of living or organizing society, that's seen as chaotic nonsense that has to be strictly suppressed before it spreads like wildfire.
Which brings us to the core thesis of the entire essay, and it is a harsh, uncompromising comparison. Xu states that just as pigs exist ultimately to serve the breeder, humans exist ultimately to serve the ruler. It's a really fatalistic view, impartially comparing the functioning of human society to a giant agricultural enterprise, where the general population is carefully managed for the ultimate benefit of those sitting at the very top.
But how exactly is this management achieved? I mean, we aren't literally locked in pens, so what keeps us in place? The essay outlines 3 specific tools of societal control used by rulers: marriage and family, status and bureaucracy, and finally, money. Let's dig into how each of these functions to keep the masses docile and occupied.
Tool number 1 is marriage. Now, this is definitely a highly controversial stance, but Shufeng argues that marriage and the creation of a small family unit are actively encouraged by rulers as a means of control. Why? Well, because it traps individuals in a small, lifelong circle of struggle. Once you have a family, your energy is completely consumed by providing for them. You get so busy just surviving and maintaining your household that you literally don't have the time or energy to develop broader, disruptive ambitions against the ruling class.
Tool number 2 is status. This is that relentless drive to climb the bureaucratic ladder. The essay argues that rulers actively encourage this desire for official titles because it creates this brilliant self-policing hierarchy. People naturally want to stand above others to secure power, privilege, and comfort for themselves. And in doing so, the lower levels eagerly serve the higher levels. It maintains the entire structure of the pen without the highest ruler ever having to lift a finger.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the striking imagery Shufeng uses to describe this bureaucratic power. He writes, even if a pig sat in an official position, people would definitely call it a god pig. It's a wild image, right? But he's illustrating how bureaucratic authority commands blind obedience. It really doesn't matter who or what holds the power. The masses have been trained to bow to the position itself, rendering them super easy to control through hierarchy.
And finally, we reach the third tool of control, a singular focus on money, or, as the essay translates it, look toward money. By making wealth the ultimate key to housing, transportation, and basic services, society's vision is intentionally narrowed down to just this one thing. This singular pursuit acts as the ultimate pacifier. It keeps everyone running tirelessly on the exact same treadmill. To fully grasp this extended metaphor, just think about the pig slop. The slop keeps the pigs focused, content, and willingly inside the pen. Well, in the human world, that slop is money. It keeps humans focused on buying houses, cars, and securing services. Shufeng equating a relentless pursuit of material wealth to livestock blindly focusing on their daily feed is honestly incredibly sharp, because as long as the trough is full, we don't really question the walls around us.
As the essay nears its conclusion, Shufeng introduces a final classical quote, this time from Lao Tzu. The sage embraces the one as the model for the world. This ancient wisdom sets the stage for a deeply ironic, almost fatalistic conclusion about how we should actually go about living within this invisible societal pen.
Because despite exposing this massive, vast system of control, Shufeng's ultimate survival path is surprisingly compliant. He advises that aligning completely with the highest ruler provides the most freedom and happiness within the confinement. Essentially, his view is that if you realize you're in a pen, fighting the walls is only going to bring you pain. Conforming to the will of the top leader is, realistically, just the most comfortable way to exist within the system.
Which leaves us with a really profound and frankly unsettling thought. After exploring Guy Shufeng's intense critique of society structures, we kind of have to ask ourselves, are we actually living freely, or are we simply living comfortably in a really well-decorated pen? It's a brilliant metaphor that forces us to examine our ambitions, our family structures, and our bank accounts in a completely new light. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I will leave you to ponder that exact question.